What up, y'all? Still in February, still these 101 with a supervillain, man. Y'all already know. Let's just get into it because I know me and him got a lot to talk about because a lot of things have come out and things are coming out. The managing editor of the Intersect Media, Mr. Chris Lee. What's going on, bro?
A lot's going on. Last time we talked, it was the beginning of January.
Yeah, I know, right? And in a short amount of time. So much has happened. So where you want to start first? You got to excuse me. I just got out the gym, so this Reese's peanut butter cup is calling my name. So where you want to start first? Ant-Man and the Wasp or
probably Ant-Man and the Wasp.
What were your thoughts? Well, you say you didn't love it, but you didn't have
I would say it's an average Marvel film for me. The big thing is I'm a big third act guy. If the third act doesn't land for me, the movie can only be really average. And I like the first two acts a lot.
Okay.
Everything up until basically they go into the probability field.
Yeah.
Then it kind of goes off the rails for me a little bit. Because I really love the Kang stuff up until that point. And then MODOK kind of takes over, which is funny. But then, Kang getting beat by ants. And then Hope coming in to save the day when she had nothing to do in the film.
They needed something for her to do.
And did they? They could have just not had her in there. But they could have just it would have been funny if they would have just kept her on Earth. Everybody else went to the quantum realm and it's bye.
It feels like every line, the majority of lines that were meant for Cassie, that were done for Cassie, were originally meant for Hope.
Yeah.
It feels like instead of giving her that, they just gave it to Cassie.
Well, her only thing was she was appalled that apparently her parents had relationships with other people.
Yeah, that was it.
Which is just terrible. I mean, it would be one thing if it's almost like she was Cassie's age, 25 years old, then that would make sense. But for a 50-year-old woman to be because you, Michael, was yeah, I did too. It just wasn't you, babe. That's just the best. That's great. But I had a big issue with how they kind of nuked Kang a little bit at the end. I didn't really love that at all. That was my main thing with it.
So I've seen a lot of people complain, how did he get beat by ants? Now, the only this is guess and summation completely from me. The only guess I can give is because they kept telling you these ants are smart as shit, right? And because the ants got there, they kept evolving and got smarter and smarter and smarter. So time was moving faster for them than it was for Kang. And so because they were smarter, they were learning more and they knew how to deal with it. That's the only thing I can guess because they kind of gave you that information about them.
They did. They also gave you information Kang killed Thor. What version of Thor could he
That's exactly what I was about to bring up. What version of Thor did he kill?
That's my main thing with it is we just needed a few lines. Either this is the weakest Kang versus them saying this is the scariest Kang, which kind of depowers him a little bit. If he had been if this was the weakest Kang, then you'd be oh, okay. I also just even comics wise don't like the Council of Kang stuff. I like one powerful Kang.
Yeah,
he is different enough from Thanos. He's not a duplicate of Thanos at all.
Right.
Look at what motivations are. He's deeply personal, deeply vengeance versus Thanos is not.
Right.
He had a purpose. Destroy half the universe. That's it. Kang wants to conquer everything that's in his timeline, and that could destroy his variants. Whichever.
Right. Right.
So that was. I think part of it too is I'm not sure that Ant-Man was the right. The quantum realm makes sense as far as if you're going to introduce them. I think there are other Avengers you could put where when he says a line, I've killed other Avengers before, that should feel a lot heavier. It doesn't seem like it weighs on Scott the way that it would if it was, say, Cap. That would have hit Cap very differently.
But the thing is, Steve Rogers is gone.
I know. I'm just giving an example. There are other people that would have hurt, but I just didn't like the third act at the end. That was the main thing with that movie.
Well, I have problems with the third as well. Them getting out of the quantum realm, you can look at it and tell that wasn't supposed to be it, and I found
No,
out it wasn't supposed to be
it
it.
wasn't. No, the ending was supposed to be Scott and Hope are trapped in the
Stuck.
quantum realm, and he gets out.
Yeah, they're stuck.
And Kane should get out. Like that would give Cassie a purpose going forward too, because she just lost her father again.
So the reason it was, I found out, is contract issues. Because them in the quantum realm requires them to do a lot more, being Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly, because it requires them near a whole nother movie.
Sideline them longer.
Huh?
It seemed like it would sideline them because they basically be in prison until their daughter got out.
They knew they would have right, but they knew they'd have to do something. They don't mind showing up every now and then. They don't want to have to do a whole nother thing.
I mean, that makes sense because I think Ant-Man works better at when he's part of the team.
Yeah.
We're going to focus purely on the father-daughter stuff, which is still the strength of this movie, by the way.
Right,
and
of course.
Like Catherine Luton, for whatever reason, I thought she was pretty dang good. The one thing is, too, no one really has character arcs in this film. Like, if you have to look at it, who changes from the beginning to the end?
I think we don't. I agree with you what you're saying, but
Maybe
I think
Janet.
Who?
Maybe Janet.
Janet's the only one, really. But I think the thing is, it's more so not about the character arc in this film. I think it's about the character arc throughout the trilogy.
I get that to a degree, but you got to kind of have that even in individual films, because then it kind of feels like you shortened it. Because like the Cassie Scott like disconnect that ends like right at the beginning of the second act. Like they're in prison and then they make up and then they're pretty much good. And it feels like you could have done more with that conflict.
But I think you don't want to. I don't think you want to drag this out being about a father-daughter butting heads, because again you got Scott, who's more so like, all right, you're going down the path I'm going, pretty much. He sees it, and so it's one of those. Especially, the situation is automatically going to change. Even as a dad, I look at it like this: the situation is going to change when there's something bigger at stake. It's automatically the gripe, the button head shit of father daughter, father son, mother daughter. It's gonna end in that situation when shit is much bigger, because now the situation is, yeah, you got a suit, cool. You've been training. I've been live action doing this shit in the field. But the problem is, right now we're stuck in a world we have no fucking idea about.
Right.
So that takes precedent, if you will, over that building out that whole argument and that frustration they have.
And I also think they should, because King does nothing with time. He threatens time with Janet. That was a little misdirect from the trailer they did there. But I wish they had done something with that. The time element, using it as manipulation versus.
But that's why he can't, because he's in the quantum realm. You can't touch anything. That's the purpose of them putting him there. Remember, they know what he can do. Right. They know it. You put him in the one place which is technically outside of time.
But could he age them? See, if they would have said, though, he can't age him up in the quantum zone, they didn't say that. His powers are limited to the quantum realm because he can't get out.
His powers are connected to it. But his powers weren't, though. That was the thing. His powers weren't connected to the realm. The powers were connected to his ship.
Right, but then it's fixed, but he can't leave. Because the ship allows him to create everything in that city and the weird robot henchmen people.
Yes and no. Yes and no. And so here's why. You would think the ship itself makes him create everything. He gets slaves and he gets slaves out of them in the quantum realm to create it, because he knows the ideas and they make everything happen for him. But the only thing he can't make, because it was one of a time, because he definitely just won't have the necessary tools and the resources, is his core engine. It's the one thing he can't remake. But he can have him make a whole city and a citadel and all this other stuff. Because he can do all that, because he can get everybody else to do it. Because once you showed how powerful you are, can't nobody stop you.
Right.
So now you got people working for you. So I get that part. Like, yeah, because that was the thing Janet said. All he needed to get was his suit.
Yep.
And that was all because once he gets his suit, he becomes Kang the Conqueror, because he has the ability, because we know Kang in himself is powerless.
Right.
The guy is powerless, but the suit is what he is a genius. Absolutely.
He should still be able to kick the crap out of Scott. He hadn't done anything in like 5 or 6 years.
He did beat the dog shit out of Scott. He stumped
Look
that
at
man in the face. He stumped that man in the face. That's twice.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
But that was the other thing too. It took too long for Kane to get involved in the third act.
I think everybody feels like it took too long to get him involved in the movie.
Yeah.
Because you kept saying
they got him MODOK, and then it kind of became like a MODOK sideshow thing for a while, which was funny. Not, but like the MODOK redemption and stuff like that, you could have done more Kang, like just like controlling. Because I thought they were going to tie in how much Kang controlled MODOK, you know, the kind of like control angle. But then when you eventually do the dick, you know, don't be a dick thing, that kind of washes that away.
But you also got to remember who's the writer of this movie.
No, I know who the writer of the movie is. No, Rick and Morty, dude.
I've been telling everybody that. I'm like, at the end of the day, if you thought, look, there are people who love Rick and Morty, who hate Rick and Morty. I'm just like, it exists. That's how I feel about it, right? There are some episodes that I've laughed with. Some episodes I was like, this is just absolutely fucking dumb. But when you watch a lot of shit that happens in that movie, a lot of it is very, very Rick and Morty-esque.
It is very Rick and Morty, which makes you worry about Kang Dynasty. Not gonna lie, because he's writing that one.
Yeah, I thought about that.
You know, it's just like a few little things that would have cleared some stuff up.
But I think also, you know, now that you bring it up, when we talk about Kang Dynasty and all this, I think now having come out and having seen the full product and having seen how some things work and how some things may go over the top, but also we got to remember too, Ant-Man in himself as the films are comedic heist films,
which is what I want them to be. That's great. Well, that's the one thing is they changed the screenwriters from the first two, which you can kind of tell a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, maybe just stick with those writers because they seem to kind of understand the Ant-Man element in the heart of it a little bit more. Versus like, you know, because people are worried because the Multiverse of Madness writers writing the other Avengers movie. But that is more, my issues with Multiverse of Madness is more, that's clearly a Sam Raimi controlled, everything about that. It's very Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
The writing of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, some of the things they do, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, it just doesn't, you know, it's like Raimi went, let's do this.
Right, because originally, this is the thing I was always thinking about with Multiverse of Madness. So it was always set to be a horror type movie, no matter what, right? That was the original thing. What the fuck was right, right. So what was Derrickson's plan that they was like that they butted heads on?
I think it was the multiverse. I don't think that was what I think Derrickson wanted to go and do the Mordo stuff, like dive into that dynamic and the fact that again, Doctor Strange has this tendency to go more into power and keep messing with what the laws are, and so I think that's what they would have really drilled down on as far as a horror aspect of it.
Yeah, I wonder that's the thing that makes me really. I mean, but how do you push that besides the normal what we've seen already?
But I think we've seen too with Feige, like his strengths and his not so strengths. I think the mystical stuff, like Ghost Rider, Blade, I don't think those are in his wheelhouse as much as like Fantastic Four and stuff like that he really wants to nail down.
But I think when you bring up Blade is simple. Blade is just bring up creatures. It's just I don't think it's as mystical, if that makes sense.
I'm referring to a lot of the characters that you would consider like the Midnight Suns kind of characters.
Okay.
So which Blade is kind of adjacent to.
Yes.
Like kind of connecting them, Ghost Rider, stuff like that. Like I don't think that that's really his area, which is why I think Blade has had so many issues coming out the gate. But it looks like they're going to film it.
Well, the main reason they said because the main reason it was the issue was Mahershala was like, "Yo, I'm barely fighting twice." Yeah, and they were like, "This is not a Blade movie. Blade is an ass kicker. Why am I not doing more?" And you can't be mad at him for that one because you're like, yeah, bro, he need to be fighting people for real.
Well, that's the one thing I am liking is they've kind of done away with like the 7-year contracts with the actors. So the actors are getting more say. They're going, I don't like the script, so I'm not going to be in this for a while. That's why it took so long for, and still Tom Holland's not technically signed. Not technically. They have the story.
I thought he was signed.
They have that story. They have the story locked, at least what they want to do with it. But a lot of these actors are waiting till the scripts come in, which is making the shows and stuff take longer. But I think it's going to make the quality better versus them signing 7 or 8 things and you just throw them in things.
I mean, depending on what the story is and how you need to move that particular story, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say more so is depending on how you want to move that particular story. Because if you need characters, again, Jonathan Majors is a get because of what you're doing with him. His variants can pop up everywhere now.
Yeah.
And his variants don't have to be like Victor Time. His variants don't have to be super powerful people as of yet.
They don't. They could also be very manipulative.
They can just be genius manipulators, right? And the thing with the Kang Dynasty is now, because what they basically told you is they're not individually having to knock off Kangs. They got to deal with this shit at one time and figure out how to stop this at its source. And the thing is behind that, how does it tie into Secret Wars? Because again, those are 2 back-to-back projects. So whatever happens in Kang Dynasty has to be so massive to the point where Galactus is coming in as somebody. Because if we find out in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that what they're in that little, what looks like a medical center thing is actually the body of the Celestial that was beheaded, the question becomes, what after we saw, because that was the reason we saw them in Eternals, right?
Right.
We saw how massive these motherfuckers were. You needed the scale.
Right.
You needed the scale to see how massive they are. Because if something ripped the head off of one, what is powerful enough to rip the head off a Celestial?
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought Secret Wars would be very Doom centric, very Earth focused, versus Kang Dynasty would be multiple realms and just gigantic.
Yeah, I think it can be Doom focused. The problem becomes if Secret Wars is, because even though, yes, it is in the comics, is him trying to manipulate Kang, him sitting there saying that, trying to convince Kang he's a descendant of him, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But the problem becomes where it runs into that problem we always say with Marvel villains, where they can eliminate them. Doom and Secret Wars, I don't want them getting rid of him.
No, I don't either.
Long story short, I just don't want them getting rid of him.
Yeah.
I need him to be around, because if this is Doom takes on the Marvel Universe, in a sense, this isn't a phase. This is something down the line. This is where you really need, you see how big and bad he is, where you get the X-Men getting fucked up by him. You get the FF getting fucked up by him. You get the Avengers and all this. You need that bigger level. So Secret Wars for me, we're at this juncture now where the next 2 villains, no matter how they come up, be it Galactus and Doom or Galactus, somebody has got to go, unfortunately, right? Or because the way you really beat Galactus is you don't beat Galactus, you just put this motherfucker in another dimension.
Well, basically what they did in Doctor Strange 1 with Dormammu.
Yeah, that's what you Dormammu.
Loop, and then, well, that's what I also with Ant-Man. I thought they would just have more creativity in the third act, because the first 2 acts are so creative.
Yes, the best Star Wars movie Marvel has ever made.
And then in the third act, it's just like a war film that could have been done anywhere on a green screen. Or the scaling's all over. Okay, you want to jump into DC?
Yeah, I mean, bro, let's do it.
All right. What do you think of Gunn's slate?
It's a James Gunn. It's number one, it's fairly James Gunnish, number one. Number 2, it's what he don't want to call it. It's the Gunverse. It is his universe. And he doesn't.
Yeah, that was the thing when he goes gods and monsters. I'm like, wasn't that? I mean, it was different. That was kind of what Snyder was going with. Like that these are gods among men. kind of thing, which was
Mhm.
an interesting thing. If he had just said monsters, I'd be like, okay, I see where you're going with that. The odd thing is the Superman Legacy. I was really excited because when he did because All Star Superman is my favorite Superman comic.
Okay.
So when he referenced it, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But the one thing is, you can't do that story with a new Superman because it's an established Superman that's always that's been through everything, and then he gets sick, and then that's that whole arc of him still having that genial kind of personality and kind of getting through it
Okay.
like a lot. But the thing is, you can't do that with the new Superman because then it's got to only be a tonal piece. I'm assuming is the tone is the reason he referenced that comic because
That's it. That's probably why. Because if you're using a younger Clark,
it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, but that's what I'm like. I like that you're saying that, but you can't use any of the story because it's got a Lex Luthor that's firmly established, that's evil as hell, and all this stuff. Versus in this Superman, he's got to set up everything. He's got to set up Lois. He's got to set up because this is supposed to be like a Superman, like in his second or third year,
Yeah.
which is like that's a lot. So that's
Because
the one where I'm like, that's going to come down to casting and getting trailers and stuff like that. The thing that I love the Supergirl idea. I think that's a great idea.
I think because he again, you know how I've been saying they say the movie is good for, as far as the Flash. They know how good she is and they don't want to lose her, so that's her movie.
I hope that that's what they're doing instead of recasting it.
Yeah, I
or
think
something
it's
like
her
that.
solo movie. It's her solo film.
I would hope so
Because
it's like
also
a really good comic run, and it's dark too.
because you'll get two different Kryptonians. You'll get the one who was lost and who has a chip on her shoulder in Kara. Then you'll get the I've got values from being loved in Clark.
Yeah.
So you'll have those two conflicting things. His slate also, and there was a third thing I was gonna say. His slate, when he had made the announcement, I've said this to everybody. I wish he would just say fuck y'all and stop trying to appease these Snyderverse fans. Because he kept
You do that too. I mean, I am more of a Snyder guy, but I'm not an idiot. So, I like his films.
Mhm.
I know the reality is you don't sell things to Netflix like that. That doesn't work that way. Also, Warner Bros. Wouldn't do that because they're panicky as hell. And so if anything goes wrong, even with Zaslav, he'll cut bait and then go somewhere else. Like if something doesn't feel right, he's not going to risk any. That was the weird thing. Authority was the one I'm like, does Zaslav know how the Authority works?
No, you know, but that's James Gunn. That's Gunn to the fullest.
So
That's how you know.
Yeah, but how is he going to direct? He's got to direct that one, right? That is such a James Gunn thing in every way.
It's unless he has to handpick somebody who can do the exact same tone and theme that he wants, which there is only one person I think he trusts to do it, and that's Taika. Because remember,
although Authority is really dark too, like incredibly dark.
no, I get it, but I think
you could almost this won't happen. Okay, you could almost do Snyder if you looked at how Watchmen looks visually. The Watchmen film he made, that's kind of what the Authority looks like.
No, I get what you're saying. I don't think I hear you, and I get what you're saying tonally with the director that can bring that to life. I agree with you, absolutely. But I think if you don't get him, because I think nobody wants to touch Snyder when it comes to DC. I think they don't want to do it because it is too much of a risk for the headache with the fan base, just being real. So there are two other people. Taika Waititi can do it because remember, Taika was the one he wanted to do Guardians if he didn't do it, right?
Right.
Number one, Taika or Muschietti. And here's why. The trailer from The Flash showed us that Muschietti knows how to make Snyder's theme make his look. Because that's the
everybody's look. Even Tim Burton. He knows how to make everybody's look. Like the shots look like Tim Burton shots. And
that's what I'm saying. He knows how to do that. So because he knows how to do that, and if you need that type of feel, let Muschietti do it if he got time and if he wants to. You get Muschietti to do it. Now, if you find a director that nobody thought about, they've got to have something up their sleeve that has been just incredible. Because I don't also think he already wrote Waller, right? He's already written Creature Commandos. He's written Superman. He's going to direct Superman. We all fucking know it. I don't know why
he can't just keep messing around unless he knows that he's got to do the Authority as well. And he's trying to figure out what he's got to do.
Or there's still not just the Authority, there's still Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah, I don't know how he goes about doing that if he's going to erase most of that universe. And a lot of them are popping up in other things.
And Waller anyway.
So maybe you don't need Peacemaker too. Maybe you just put Peacemaker in other things. You know, you just move John Cena around in a different stuff. I mean, apparently Aquaman 2 is terrible, which I think we all kind of knew. I mean,
Look,
first one wasn't good. I'm sorry. I mean, it's kind of fun if you like stupid stuff that, you know, you can kind of erase your brain. But it's the plot of it even is like the first movie. Just
it's a reverse Black Panther.
Well, it's Mantis wanting revenge again, and then it's like the brothers are going to go out on an adventure together, and Amber Heard's still in there, and I don't know.
I don't care about the Amber Heard part. It's just the story is stupid.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden, the two of you motherfuckers are best buddies because you're brothers and we need each other. I think he was trying to murder you.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And the Batman and Robin, you know, that's going to come down to who you get directing and starring. Although it is very, very close to Robert Pattinson, you know, like to when they're looking to release that. It's like only a year after like the Batman 2 is supposed to come out.
But that's fair. That's fine. You know why? Yeah. It's perfect. It's actually perfect because you can carry that enthusiasm from the Batman 2 into the Batman Brave and the Bold. Yeah. Because now you got this Batman. Huh?
As long as you cast it when you have a director that's on the caliber of Matt Reeves. Because if you put a lesser director, they're going to go, well, this isn't going to be as good as Matt Reeves stuff. And then you have the whole... Again, I kind of feel like you could almost put Ben Affleck in that, but they're not. I know it's a race, but you could almost do that Bruce Wayne with a young Robin. Would be really interesting to me.
You talking about
directed it?
I think it's just going to be about,
because also this is a Batman that's lost to Robin, to Joker, has all this, and you don't need to introduce another Gotham City because you kind of glimpsed it.
Yeah. When you're doing Damian Wayne, Gotham has been there already. We've been here, man. We've done that.
That's right. Versus, you know, you got to kind of, you know, with a different Batman, there's a different rogues gallery. There's a different take on all the villains and all this other stuff. And you got to introduce the Robin and develop the father-son. It's just a lot to take on in a movie where you haven't established either a Batman or a Robin.
Again, I feel like, I know a lot of people keep saying they need it because it's their base and blah, 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 blah. It's the people they have to use. This rush to do the Trinity in some way, shape, or form or fashion is...
There's so many characters. Where's Static Shock? I don't get it. I don't... Like, even as a smaller budget thing, you could do a good Static Shock movie.
Well, right now it's in Michael. So Michael B. Jordan Production Company has it. I think everybody's waiting on the audience response to Creed 3, because we're learning. People haven't learned. They not caring about critical response because critical response ain't affecting their box office sometimes. Look, after Venom made $1 billion and critics hated it, don't nobody care no more.
Yeah.
So it depends on what Creed 3 does at the box office, because if Creed 3 becomes successful at the box office, then Michael B. Jordan, because his production company has Static, he'll fuck around and direct that just as well as direct Black Panther, because Coogler said he don't want to do the third one.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this before. This is
right.
Well, we talked about how that would be the way to go, because he doesn't even have to be in Black Panther.
Or you could get, and then if you really want to play smart, give Ryan Coogler Static Shock.
Sure. Or you can even put Stephen Caple if you kind of have...
Get one of the two of them. Get them Static Shock.
Coogler can produce it, you know, oversee the story, all that.
Yeah, you just get the two of them. That's one of the two of them gets it. It's so much because of... it's so much because there's all these characters we know. Like I know you saw the Bleeding Cool article, and then him go 4 to 8 because they introduced 8 characters, and they were like, "Are these 8 possibly somebody James Gunn's gonna do?" And James Gunn said, "How does 4 of the 8 work?" So, which means we know he's doing Nightwing. We know that's happening because you got to be doing Nightwing. If you're doing Damian Wayne, Nightwing is a definite part.
Yeah.
He's out there,
and he should show up in that movie.
All you need is a small bit. All you need is just him drop in and drop the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
He don't need to be
you
there.
Have to do an action scene. You can just have a conversation between Dick and Bruce.
Yeah, you have a conversation. He put Vixen in there. Who else was it? Fuck, let me pull up the rest of these because I didn't remember all about heart. It was Jonathan Kent, and everybody was like, "No, it's definitely not Jonathan Kent because he's already said he's doing a younger Superman." So if he's doing,
unless that's what, because they're making J.J. Abrams Superman thing still. Whatever that
are they?
Yeah, that's still in production. They confirmed that during the slate, and that's an Elseworlds thing. You know what? The Elseworlds, it's like you could. It's just bizarre. Some of the stuff I'm like, so are we condensing universes? We're just gonna have separate things. This is what DC was doing before. They were just doing whatever, sounded like a good idea.
DC needs to just literally not worry about a universe.
Yep.
Stop worrying about a fucking universe.
Find good writers first. That'd be different than what Marvel does. Because Marvel goes, they just choose whatever writers and then they kind of put the director with it. Like hire great writers that put a completed script. I do like that Gunn said, we're not going to shoot with incomplete scripts. They're going to be finished scripts, which means they're more likely to push back productions and stuff like that if it needs to be for the quality. But
so these are the characters. I think I found it. Where is it? I just scrolled past. So it was Arsenal, Roy Harper, Tara, which I can see that if he's gonna go and all that. Kyle Rayner, which is like, are you fucking crazy?
No, because they already confirmed that they're doing
they're doing Hal and John.
Yeah, which is cool. I love the True Detective approach. I'm like, I get it. I immediately see the show.
So here's the 8. And I think I'll say the 8, and I think we know the 4. So it's Arsenal, Vixen, Tara, Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, Nightwing, John Kent, Static, Cassandra Cain, Batman, right? Batgirl. So we know Nightwing is for sure. Mm-hmm. Static Shock is for sure. I can see Tara because we want to start using metahumans even more. And I could see Cassandra Cain.
Yeah, all those I could see.
But Arsenal, unless he wants to, Arsenal doesn't work until you introduce a Green Arrow.
Right, which, again, there's one Green Arrow that works, and it's Stephen Amell, unless you're going to, is, the whole thing is to unite everything. So that would not be a bad way to do that. Although the Arsenal in the show kind of sucked. But anyways.
I mean, for the way he initially started out.
Yeah, it was fine.
Cool.
Yeah, when it started out, and then it got a little weird. But, if you do it right, it could work. But you got to establish the Green Arrow first. So how are you going to, and then if it is, this is why it won't be Stephen Amell. Because the second you see Stephen Amell, you're going to want like Grant Gustin. Because then you're like, well, it's the CW verse coming into it.
But I wouldn't be mad at it. I'm going to tell you why.
Because I wouldn't be mad. It's just like, why don't we get the other one then?
What do you mean?
If you're picking and choosing things, it's just like, well, why not do that?
I think we're getting Grant. I think we're getting Grant. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting Grant as the Flash.
That's what I would hope. Because again, okay, let's talk about this Flash trailer. Everything about it is great, except Ezra. Except Ezra. Mm-hmm. Ezra's the weakest element. He's not terrible,
but it's just Ezra Miller.
Us in the film, like Ezra's one of those actors. I can't read his emotion in his face. Like I'm like, are you angry, sad, shocked? Are you upset? Because it doesn't translate.
Right.
And that's always been my thing with him as a lead actor. Like, and everything else kind of works, although it's like this is a Batman film. Like if they'd make more money if they took the Flash label off of it. If they just went Batman Flashpoint,
they would work a whole lot better. Because I'm pretty sure there's no way when they start doing these press junkets, Ezra Miller Warner Brothers is gonna try to figure out how to put Ezra Miller on the press junkets, and everybody gonna be like, "You really think that's a good idea?"
It's a terrible idea.
The way you promote this movie, unfortunately, is with Muschietti, Michael Keaton, and Sasha Calle. That's the only.
I do agree. I do think you give Muschietti anything he wants to do.
Yeah, you give Muschietti anything he wants to do afterward.
He can do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you give Muschietti whatever he wants to do.
Supergirl. He could do if he's setting up Callie, why not have him do the Supergirl movie?
Because he already knows the character.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Have him do that. He knows the character. I mean, I would like him to have a bigger project. Actually, he'd be a good Batman. If he was directing that Batman movie after, that wouldn't be a bad thing for him to do either. If you kind of wanted him to use him to set up that part of the Batverse, that kind of resetting it anyways. So he could kind of choose. You can be like, okay, well, this is the Batman character at the end of if they figure that out in time, which would be real fast.
Do we get Christian Bale to show up just for a second?
I don't think you get Bale. I think that wasn't his bat cycle in the trailer. We all know it's not his bat cycle, but I think you might get something like that. Like you get the tank or something like that. Like they'll do like Crisis on Infinite Earth, where you see something real quick and then that universe is gone.
Okay.
I think you'll see it right as it gets like obliterated or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that'd be cool. But I don't know if Bale would do anything without having Nolan involved, unless Nolan's going to produce it, be one of the producers.
So that's what I was telling somebody. What if Christopher Nolan is attached as producer only in name and credit?
Well, I think Snyder will be too. I think Snyder's going to get a producer thing.
Absolutely, they all are.
They all
are.
They all should.
They all should. I mean, because again, you're referencing their films and characters, so of course they are. But
talk about how weird it is. They're going to do a Wonder Woman series set on an island where we don't know who the Wonder Woman is or care.
That's supposed to be Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
When the whole purpose
is Game of Thrones.
Because when the purpose of Themyscira is there is no infighting with the women.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, this one doesn't
make sense.
It smells like a Joss Whedon Wonder Woman script. It's like, wait.
Yeah, it makes no sense. There's not supposed to be any infighting with the women on what Themyscira. There's a perfect population of warrior women without men who understand every part of what their society is.
If you wanted to do it, a Game of Thrones type thing, why don't you just do like Old Gods in DC? Like you go way back in time where it's all the different.
Yeah.
People. Like, so you could still have, I don't remember Diana's mom's name.
Hippolyta.
You have that. You have like all the different gods. And then you kind of have them. I mean, that would be more interesting to me than a civilization of all women doing what? What are they fighting over?
That's going to be like, because again, yes, there is the occasional, unless the only way, oh my God, there has to be some argument to where it's before Zeus and the gods cloak them.
You know what it is? It's almost like they were like, we need a women-led thing because we don't have any women-led stuff necessary except for Waller. We need something that's women-focused. And they were like, well, let's go to Themyscira. And then someone
fine, go to Themyscira, but it's like you're doing it and you're gonna bastardize the story of what Themyscira is.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make something happen because you don't need a token dude in it. Right?
Nope.
If you're gonna have Themyscira be what it is, you don't need a token dude. The only dude
I'd laugh if Chris Pine showed up. Or if they did Pratt, just to like switch it up, because everyone's wondering what Pratt is gonna show up as.
Yeah, because it's James Gunn's universe.
Like,
it's just some of the things are intriguing, But the problem is the project in itself is intriguing, right? That's not the problem. The problem isn't the project in itself. It's intriguing. It's the synopsis that he gives for certain things.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when you tell us this is the power struggle on Themyscira, huh? What?
Right.
Like that's never unless it's a story arc that's being written now that we haven't read yet.
Right.
Because that would be the only way that, like, if there's a new story arc in Wonder Woman and whatever in Themyscira that's being written, that is being canon written in comics, that opens itself to being a conflict on Themyscira, then I think we could have the moment where we understand that. We get that, right? And then we're like, cool, this is kind of what you're doing. But to come out the blue and say, nah, it's gonna be problems on Themyscira is like, what?
Works.
Just doesn't sound right. Again,
have Zeus like come down and start like trying
to control. Now I was gonna say, if you have a token guy, it has to be a god, though. It can't be a human.
It can't be, no.
It has to be the gods.
No, because the only one that goes there is Steve Trevor for like centuries.
Right. So it has to be the gods involved.
But you also got to connect it somewhat to a Diana or something, referencing what's to come, because it's all prophecy related too.
What if the power struggle? The power struggle. So Diana is the daughter of Zeus, basically. But Diana don't want to be like, she wants to do her own thing. What if Zeus comes back to Themyscira and impregnates another Amazonian? And so now that baby is born, and the woman who was pregnant with her child feels she should hold right to lead the Amazons now.
Yeah, does Diana even want to lead? Like, the whole thing with Diana is she's all about like what's going on outside the world. Like, should we do the other thing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. The battle, it's not Diana.
We almost have a Black Panther thing.
Yes.
Killmonger. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you have all this power. Let's use it. We could teach them. Yeah, it could work if you want to involve the wider world in it.
I mean, it stays primarily focused within Themyscira.
Yeah.
But the power is, yes, we have our sanctuary here, but we can actually run more. We're more powerful than them. There's a sect of women who think that. And because maybe she's grown up already. We found out she's another daughter of Zeus.
Right.
Like time has passed and we didn't, Diana's been doing her thing. She's part of she's part of the Justice League. She's gone, whatever. She's living her life, doing whatever she's got to do. But you have another daughter of Zeus who's like, I'm here though. Diana's gone. I'm here. So now that causes a split amongst the Amazonians.
Right.
Because you have some women who are like, we can dominate the male world. And there are some Themyscirians like, yes, we can, but we're safe here. We don't have to risk losing anybody here. I am about to tweet all this to James Gunn and see what he says.
Okay, one last DC thing, and then we can do the wrestling stuff.
All right, because I got to bounce in the future. So yeah,
that's fine. Who do you want to? Who would you cast in the Green Lantern show? As Hal and John.
It really is going to vary on how old we're making them.
Okay.
So if we're doing a mid-30s, early 40s John.
For me, it'd be, since they're probably not going to use Hawkman again, I'd do Aldous Hodge. He'd be great as it. And he's used to doing TV too. So he could also produce.
I could do all this, or I just say, fuck it. I'm just give it to David. Give it to Ramsey.
Ramsey would be great.
Give it to David. He has what we need for Jon Stewart. He understands the character. He has that stature to be military and what the character is. He's played a military man who's done this other thing. And so now he's had that whole dynamic too with Oliver, where the greater good of saving Starling City, Star City, but I'm sick of your shit at times.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, for the floodgates are open for Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
So there's no one guarantee, because the floodgates.
You could go a lot of different ways. I think it'd be interesting depending on. I kind of want to see like Adam Driver do something, and he was a Marine, so people forget that about Adam Driver. So
he was a Marine.
He was, yeah.
I know.
So that would be an interesting, depending on how 65 million years goes. But that would be an interesting how, especially because if they're doing the True Detective thing, and how Jordan's supposed to be the senior kind of guy in that, so you could see him almost being like a little over it at that point. And I think that would be an interesting thing versus like, you know, everyone keeps saying like Glenn Powell and stuff like that, but Glenn Powell's Booster Gold. I think we know if he's anything.
Yeah,
that guy's Booster Gold in every way.
Yeah, he's definitely fucking Booster Gold.
Or Chris Pratt. If you're gonna throw Chris Pratt in something.
Do we have to throw Chris Pratt in something?
We don't, but everyone kind of assumes that. So I'm like, although it'd be funny if he was Animal Man. That made me laugh.
Oh shit. That'd be funny. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man?
Yeah. Animal Man is one I would have expected as a weird thing for Gunn to do. But
I wouldn't surprise if it comes up, because now, remember, he was introduced in Doom Patrol, right? Mm-hmm. Now the Doom Patrol is done, don't be surprised he pops up.
Well, also too, I mean, Swamp Thing and Animal Man are very closely tied together.
Yeah. So
okay, let's do this wrestling stuff real quick. Where are you on the Sammy train?
I realized I should have tweeted. I tweeted it yesterday. I said, shit, I should have tweeted Saturday. The story was never about him. He was an inclusion that accidentally became so popular, but it moved the story the way it was supposed to.
Right. And it's not his thing is not about the titles, really. That's just what Bloodline has. And when you look at if you understand Paul Levesque's booking thing of anything, he doesn't hot potato titles.
No.
Very tag, anything. So he's not going to just do it for a slow burn. And if you look at the feuds, the only feuds Sammy has that people would want to see is with the Bloodline. Then after, there's really nothing.
But the feud
is there's a lot. You do
Cody everybody can come at him. So here's the thing.
You bring in Kenny Omega, if that rumor's true, that they're going to try to get him.
Who?
Kenny Omega.
I don't think they'll get him.
I don't think so. But that would be.
I think you'll see Jay White before you see Cody Omega.
WrestleMania, like he can come out at WrestleMania, kind of like how Cody did.
You'll see Jay White before you see Kenny Omega.
Yes, yeah. I think that one's already signed. That would be like a lady. But you can do whatever you want with Cody.
So here's what I think it is.
Randy Orton's training. You can immediately do that feud.
So here's what happens. I think Roman needs to win at Mania, right? Roman needs to win through some inadvertent fuck up. It's got to be a fuck finish. It can't be he clearly beats Cody. He needs to win. But the person who needs to take the titles off him is Jey Uso.
Oh yeah, I remember you doing that. Yeah, they just would need to really heat Jey up.
They've already started.
Kinda. They just reminded everybody on Sunday or Saturday.
Did they?
Really got to heat that up, and then
they started it at the Rumble though. They started it at the Rumble. It wasn't because everybody thinks everybody thinks it's that the past Monday he stood up for Sammy, which is a part of it. The bigger part is you stood up to him when I couldn't.
I still think the move to make is a triple threat. They're not going to do that.
Of course not.
But I think that would be the move to make because then Jey could really screw over Roman.
If you want to move that story, to Roman losing at SummerSlam with Jey,
or one of the two, yeah.
Because
again, even with Jey though, the story is about the bloodline, so it's the same thing. You don't need the titles for that. You have Jey Roman in this whole battle for the family. focused on that and then move the title someplace else.
But it works. It works if Jay becomes champion.
Sure.
It works because there has been, again, Logan Paul did it. I think there have been little Easter eggs when Logan Paul called him the tribal chief Jey Uso. There have been so many different Easter eggs throughout all of this.
My head, right?
Yep.
My head. He used to hate Sammy the most.
Mm-hmm.
And he fell in love.
Till he fell in love with him. So now I think the Cody thing is this. Cody's whole thing is finish the story, right? Cody's story is I need to win the title at WrestleMania because that's the best grand picture of things. Mm-hmm. But if Cody hadn't gotten hurt, I think it works better. Yes, he won the Rumble. That's fine.
It would have worked a lot better. 100%.
It works a lot better. I guess he got hurt. We understand that. We all get it. Injuries happen.
Because basically, Cody had just one feud, and people didn't get. Again, for some reason, people still think he's a mid-carder. I don't get that, see that at all with Cody, but some people do.
Yeah, some people because they don't want to see him as more than that. But yeah, Cody Rhodes is definitely a main event.
Watch him wrestle. He's a really great wrestler. Sometimes his promos aren't. It just depends on the feud. But
yeah,
wrestling has never mattered more at the top of the card. Like putting on main event caliber matches has never mattered more than the promo stuff.
Right.
So again, the Kenny Omega would be actually perfect. It's not going to happen. But if that did, like that story would be amazing. Because they could just play into the AEW stuff all the time. Like, oh God, that'd be so good.
I want to see it. I think
Kenny was the closest to coming out of the four of them because he really likes Paul Levesque. Again, Vince being around makes everything weird. And Gargoyle.
That's the problem. That's a real big thing. Like Vince now being there, even though Vince doesn't have a hand in creative, Vince is still the CEO.
Vince is still Vince.
Vince is still Vince.
And it only takes, a Saudi offering $10 billion and then it's.
Well, the problem is he has to. So the problem is with any sale anywhere, number one is it isn't an overnight thing. He has to take the company back from public to private, number one.
Right.
So that's not an overnight thing. And once he makes it private again, then he can immediately sell. But he has to do that also based under, not just the only thing, the TV contract situation has to be done.
Yeah. And none of those TV companies are going to give Vince $9 billion for WWE. It ain't worth that. It's just not. He could try and say that that's the asking price. It's $8 would be the max.
Yeah,
because all based on TV contracts. So
yeah.
If it's say Endeavor buys it, like they're gonna have to convince Comcast, which WWE decided not to let them buy, like to re-up the rights deal at a bigger value. Are they going to do that?
That's why you have a Nick Khan there, though.
Right. Nick Khan isn't stupid.
So
at all.
I mean, again, when it comes to like everything they're setting up for WrestleMania, though, I think the storylines that are playing out that we need to see, the main ones to focus on, have been great. The lesser tier ones are going to start to come to fruition over this next month.
Oh, you mean you're not into Lesnar almost?
Wait, what the fuck did I miss on Raw?
Almost did a WrestleMania challenger for Lesnar, and then Lashley. Did you watch Raw?
I missed that.
Yeah, almost challenged Lesnar for WrestleMania. Now maybe Lesnar just beats the crap out of him, and then that goes away. But
no,
Lashley was already dropping Wyatt too, so that's the other. I'm like,
I want Lesnar Gunther.
That's what I want too. Although Gunther, McIntyre, and Sheamus in a triple threat, which is what they've kind of wanted to do all along, that works too.
That works too.
Because I would actually want like a bigger build. Like if Lesnar and Gunther's the direction, I don't want it like 4 weeks. We're gonna hot shot it. Like it should be SummerSlam. Like they're both like fighting it out, that sort of stuff. I mean, like Lesnar should want to fight Gunther, and Gunther should be like, I don't need to face you. I'm above you, because that's what Gunther's whole thing is.
Well, and Lesnar's thing could be finally Lesnar can be, out of all the things I've done, there's one title I haven't got that I want.
Yeah,
because here's the problem though. I'm almost certain if it's a triple threat, if it's McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther, Sheamus is getting the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania.
Well, you can do that because you could also move Gunther up to the main event level. And if Cody's winning, that's a match you can do.
Yeah,
Cody,
you can have them fully. Yeah.
Versus like Gunther and Roman, that I mean, it'd be a good match, but that's not. They're both heels too, kind of.
Yes,
it doesn't really.
There's nothing behind it to get behind.
Yeah.
So listen, I got to get ready to get up out of here because I got to head to fucking Hollywood and do some shit. Love my life. Go ahead and tell people how they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Chris_intersect, and I'm the managing editor of theintersectionmedia.com.
Y'all know how to get them. Y'all know where I'm at. Look, holla at y'all for the next one. I got to rip and run. I'm tired. Holla at y'all. I'm out. Bye.